All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Lisa, and I am your facilitator today as we are going through understanding how we can use everything DISC on Catalyst. So I really want to thank you for joining us here today. You know, this webinar is designed to be interactive, engaging, and hopefully fun. And as we get into this content, we're going to be using a lot of different session features. So I want to introduce my producer, Shauna, to go over some of those quick logistics about interacting today in our session. Shauna?
Hi, thanks, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here with you. And I am just going to quickly go over the interactive tools that we will be using and having fun with. You will want to open the chat and participant panels. So you can find those icons. If you sort of hover over Zoom, you might wiggle your mouse, but you're going to see chat and participants. And those are the two big items that you want to see. In the there's also a reactions option. You don't need that open, but if we are asking you for a reaction, like to give a smiley face or a thumbs up, you would just go to that reactions tab, depending on which view that you see. That's also where you can raise your hand. If you are having trouble raising your hand, you can go back to that participants tab, find your name, and raise your hand there. So let's actually practice. If you can find your reactions tab on your toolbar, click on it and give me any reaction you want, just anything that makes you happy today. We got a yes. We got a shocked face from Andy. All right, awesome, excellent. So we do want you to be able to, speak aloud. This really is an interactive place, so please go ahead, raise your hand, speak your mind out loud, and also use that chat box if you do have any questions. I will be also posting various things in there from time to time for you. So with that, I think I'll send it back to Lisa.
All right, Shauna, thank you. I also want to add that you might want to be doing some light note taking. There's a few times where I'm going to ask you to jot some things down. So you'll want to have a pen and paper or maybe open up a Word doc along the side where you can take those notes. Most importantly, we're going to be experiencing everything DISC using the Catalyst platform. This is where you're going to find your assessment results and your profile feedback. So if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and log into the Catalyst platform. So I've got it up here for you to see. We've put the link in the chat box over there for you, so catalyst.everythingdisc.com, and go ahead and log in. So I'm logging in right now as our fellow participant Mateo, and we are going to be working in the workplace section of this. So if you come up to the menu up here in the upper right-hand corner, go ahead and click on Workplace, and that is where we're going to be working out of today. So that is the Catalyst platform, and I'll remind you to have that open from time to time. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. You know, in our session today, we're going to be learning a lot about what our DISC styles mean for how we work and what we prioritize. So before we dive in, let's get a really quick overview of the DISC model. So here on the screen, I have the DISC model. It consists of four main or basic DISC styles, the D, I, S, and C. So people with the D style here, they'll have, be characteristics here listed, direct and firm. People with the I style over here, more outgoing and enthusiastic. Coming around to the S style, even-tempered, accommodating. And finally over here, the C style, conscientiousness, analytical and reserved. So, those are some key characteristics of those basic DISC styles. So it's also important to note that you can have a blend of two styles like CD or, for example, like my style. I have an SI style. So Shauna, let's do a quick poll here. I'd like to do a poll. And which quadrant is your dot in? So again, if you need to remind yourself, go ahead and look at the DISC map on the home page of your Catalyst platform. So are you in the D quadrant, the I quadrant, the S quadrant, or the C quadrant? Give everybody an opportunity here to get their style in. All right, I think we can go ahead and publish that then, Shauna. All right, so we have a small majority, I guess, of those in the D quadrant, but we have quite a few I's and S styles in the room as well, and a couple of C styles in the room. So it's great to have a nice mix with this group today. So we'll really get to explore all the styles, and that will be great. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm curious now. I'd like a few volunteers, if you would, to share your thoughts on a question. I'm going to put that in the chat box there. So of the 5 adjectives or those characteristics shown on the slide underneath your style there, which one do you think has helped you most professionally? So if I could get somebody to, a couple people, volunteers, to raise their hand, and I'll be happy to call on you and give me some insights. Let's see if we can get some people of different styles here to share. Which of your characteristics do you think has helped you most professionally?
Well,
All right, Alicia, go ahead. Alicia, you've raised your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think from the D quadrant, so I have a DI style, I would say results oriented is, or maybe strong-willed. I think strong-willed from that D quadrant, but then over on the I side, I think enthusiastic stands out the most to me.
Okay. Okay. How do you demonstrate that enthusiastic characteristic? How would
Oh,
we know that?
I think everything's a good idea. You know,
Oh, great.
I want to try everything. I'm so excited when people bring ideas to the table. Uh, Going to that strong-willed side, sometimes I think my idea is the best idea, but I love an idea. So if we're all kind of debating different things and really going through it all, that is enthusiasm, like that generates a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, great. I can see how that would really um, contribute to your professional life as well. That enthusiasm, keeping new ideas going. Great. Thank you for sharing that. How about somebody else? Let's see some other hands go up. I have Tiago. Go ahead. You want to unmute?
well,
There you
I'm
go.
on I quadrant, and I think that as well as Alicia, being enthusiastic about things has helped me, and it walks together with being optimistic. So believing in people's ideas and believing that they can do this, that they can do stuff. So I think
Yeah.
that both walk with hand side, and it's one of my 2 favorite characteristics.
So through those characteristics, you actually get to help other people be better as well.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you. All right. So we've gotten some D and I characteristics. Is there anybody from the S or C quadrant that can raise their hand and share some characteristics that have contributed to their professional growth? I know this is might be stepping outside the realm, but let's see if we can get somebody courageous enough to raise their hand. Dakshar says in the chat box, precise and patient. And our producer, Shauna, is tactful. So Daksha has a C style there, so representing that slow and steady wins the race there. And Shauna, tactful. And, I as the SI style, I would have to say it's kind of a toss-up between accommodating and tactful. That I think has really helped me in my professional life. But I would also say that being optimistic, from my I quadrant as well. I share that with Tiago, that optimism, making sure that people know that we can do what we say we're going to do. So great. Thank you, people, for sharing your comments. That's exactly what I'm hoping to get from all of you. So continue to participate like that. And I'm looking forward to hearing lots of different points of view. So of course, you're not always going to be exactly like others who have your same style. We bring more to how we work than just our DISC style. The DISC model, though, is a great framework for us to understand some of those important patterns across our personalities. So it's a place to get the conversation started. So it's a great tool for that dialogue. So we're going to learn more about that, but before we do that, does anybody have any questions about the basic DISC model before we move on to applying it to our understanding? Go ahead and raise your hand if you do. All right, looks like we're ready to keep going. Okay, so using DISC, we can learn a lot about ourselves in the workplace. And so today we're going to explore the priorities that drive our behaviors during our workday. We're going to see how we compare to other styles, how our styles compare to other styles, and then also get an opportunity to start thinking about ways to be more effective at work. So let's get into Catalyst now. So you want to navigate to the What Drives You page of the platform. So go ahead and under the Workplace area here, I've brought up my Catalyst. Click to What Drives You. And that's where we're going to be working in here for a little bit. All right, so in addition to revealing your core style attributes, your DISC style or your DISC map also gives you additional information about yourself in some different particular contexts. So for example, when it comes to your preferences in the workplace, your DISC map can help you understand what you prioritize. So if you look on the map, there are these 8 words that are around the map here. Oh, let me go back. Sorry about that, folks. There are these 8 words around the map, and these are priorities that that resonate with each of those DISC styles. So these 8 words currently shown on this map here represent workplace priorities or the primary areas where people focus their energy at work. Now, all of your priorities are going to be shown in bold here on the map. So we have this person's style is an IS, so those priorities, enthusiasm, collaboration, and support are right there. Now, some people will also have 1 or 2 additional workplace priorities represented on the map, like this one right here as striped shading. So this indicates that some things outside of your style's typical focus areas might be important to you at work. They're not necessarily characteristic of your DISC style, but again, DISC doesn't say everything about us. So through our own our own education, experiences, or whatever, we have come to value. This person here in particular has come to value and exercise those characteristics around the priority of results. So your priorities will describe what is important to you, and all combinations of priorities are equally important and valuable. So having 4 or 5 priorities is no better than having 3 priorities, and vice versa. So by learning about your workplace priorities, you can gain a clearer picture of who you are. We will also start to understand how you might relate to other styles by understanding these priorities. So I want to do another quick poll here. So Shauna, if you could bring up the poll, how many workplace priorities do you have? Let's see what we have among our group right here. So how many workplace priorities do you have? Do you have 3? Do you have 4? Do you have 5? All right, it looks like we've got kind of an even split here. Some have 3 and some have 4. Good. If we want to go ahead and publish that, then Shauna, perfect. Good. Yep, so almost about an even split of 3 and 4. And like I said, having 3 or 4, neither one of those is any better than the other. It's who you are, it's where you put your energy, and what drives you in your workplace. All right, great. So we'll go ahead and close that up. Now, as we talk about priorities, let's go back to that Catalyst platform again. So on that What Drives You page, scroll down to the section titled Your Workplace Priorities. So here again, if we scroll down here, you'll have the Your Workplace Priorities area right there. And what I want you to do is take a few minutes to read through this section. Take note of a couple of statements that you agree with. So here's where you want your pen and paper or your Word document up on your screen. If there's anything that you disagree with or aren't sure about, maybe you want to make a note of that as well. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to 2.5 minutes to read through this. And when you're finished, go ahead and give me the thumbs up over there in the platform. All right, that's about 2 minutes. I'll give you another 30 seconds maybe to finish up there. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and continue on. And if you're not quite finished, you'll be able to explore that a little bit more later. Now, what I'd like to do here real quick is just do another quick poll. So Shauna, if you could bring up the poll, which workplace priority resonated most with you? So as you were learning about your priorities, which one resonated most with you? So go ahead and respond to our poll there on the screen. Okay, I'm seeing a number of comments coming up, or I mean responses. Let's go ahead and publish that then, Shauna. All right, so we have representation from most of those priorities there. So it looks like support and stability weren't as highly resonating, but that's okay. All of the others are as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. What I'd like to do now is give you another opportunity to speak up again. So if you could volunteer, I'm looking for somebody who would volunteer to tell us what priority that you chose and why. So of those different styles, maybe if we can get a few people from different styles, go ahead and raise your hand again. Let us know what priority you chose and why you chose that. And again, you can use the chat box as well. Andy, go ahead.
Thank you. I chose challenge. And typically on the surface, I don't know if I would have just chosen the word challenge out of that list of 8 words or 8 priorities. But one statement, and I had even like underlined it and bolded it in my notes I'm taking here. One statement from challenge, it said, you value efficiency and candor. and candor. And that's, I think that fits me absolutely to the T. Like I joke with colleagues that like my next career will be an efficiency consultant. Like even things down as little as like at a sandwich shop, I was getting a little irritated watching how inefficient they were while making sandwiches, and I'm like, come on. So I think that really brought it to light.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And as one of your working colleagues, I can agree. I can concur with what you said about yourself there. Thanks for sharing that, Andy. Brittany has her hand up as well. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi, I am a DI style and I'm right on the very edge of the circle up at action. So I chose action. And the reason why it resonates so strongly with me is because I think it actually contributes to my strongest professional successes and also my strongest opportunities for growth. I really relate to what the description says about how fast-paced I can be, which I think helps me be really, I mean, to Andy's point, efficient and also effective at my work, but also it's kind of a constant reminder that I need to slow down and give others space to either buy in, share their ideas, or, you know, take the time that they need to be able to be the best at their roles.
That's really insightful, Brittany. The fact that you recognize, while it's a strength of yours, just how strong it is, and identifying with the other side of the circle, the other side of the map, that it could be inhibitive for other people. So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that. And it looks like Wally had his hand up next. Go ahead, Wally. Thank you.
Yeah, so I chose accuracy. That was the one that resonated the most with me. I'm an SC style, so I was a little bit surprised by that. But then a few of the statements definitely stood out. Like I place pressure on myself to get things right. I would say that's true in my professional life and my personal life. That's how it goes most of the time. That definitely stood out. And I also, like to study my options carefully, make decisions based on, I don't know, it said objective facts. They don't always have to be objective, but I do like to consider all the possibilities and consider lots of options, see all the different ways, a problem could be solved or way things could go. So those were a couple of statements that stood out related to accuracy for me.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's it's really important. It's so important to have people on our team that are focused on accuracy. It makes us all look good. Thanks, Wally. Christy, I have one more hand here. Christy, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, I am an S style, and I actually have an extra priority and challenge, but the one that I selected that resonated most with me was collaboration. And the phrase that really stood out in the paragraph was, you do your best to make sure everyone feels included and heard. And growing up as kind of a shy child, I knew how that felt to be sort of, the wallflower a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I've always sort of thought to myself, I don't want anybody else to feel like that. I want to make sure that if I see that I'm going to be that person that reaches out to them and make sure that they have a chance to talk or to share whatever they want to share. And I think you can miss out on a lot of great ideas if sometimes you don't invite other people that may be a little bit more hesitant to speak up. And sometimes that's all that they need. So I try to do that to make sure that in the workplace, we don't miss out on anything great that could help us move forward.
Wonderful. Thank you, Christy. And here again, you even demonstrated just how our past experiences also contribute to the way we work. That's one of the cornerstone principles of DISC and it's reflected in your DISC style, but your actions are also reflective because of your own experiences. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, all of you, thank you for sharing. It's really helpful to hear how others approach their work. And we can really see DISC come alive as we talk about these priorities. So what I'd like to do now is continue scrolling. Have you continue scrolling through the What Drives You page until you reach the section, Your Motivators and Stressors. So if you come down here a little further, and you'll see Your Motivators and Stressors here. So we're going to let you read through this section as well. And this time I want you to write down one statement from each category that you think best describes you. So I'll give you 2 minutes for this as well, and then just give me that thumbs up when you're finished. All right, go ahead. All right, our time is up there. Give you about 30 seconds just to finish up your last line that you're reading. Okay, so let's go ahead and use what we've learned to describe what it's like to have your style. So first of all, in just a moment, we will enable you to go into a new room, into a breakout room that's according to the first letter of your disc style. So think about that first letter of your disc style, or perhaps if the other letter resonates more strongly with you, you can go into that room instead if you'd like. So then once you're in your rooms, what I'm going to have you do is work together to describe a good and a bad day in the work life of a person with your disc style. So use what you've learned on the Catalyst profile or the Catalyst platform and your own experiences too, to describe both what a good day and a bad day at work might look like for someone with your style. And then as you're in your group there, go ahead and designate somebody to take notes on your discussion so that we can share those out later when we come back into the big group. Now, because of the different styles in our room here, if you find that you're in a room by yourself, that's okay. Just go ahead and continue with that activity and make your own notes, and then you can share those with us when you come back, because we really do want a representation of that style. And if that's you, then we're looking forward to hearing what you're going to say. Okay, so keep in mind too that as you're in this room, your feedback might differ somewhat from your fellow group members, because not people with the same style are not necessarily always going to be exactly the same. There are going to be some nuances that are different, or maybe they're influenced by their secondary style as well. So it's okay if people have slightly different variations on that style, but work together to bring together a picture of what a good day and a bad day would be like for somebody with your style. All right, so Shauna, if you want to go ahead and instruct how people can choose the room they're going to go into.
Sure. Yep. And it is very basic. As soon as I start the breakouts, you are going to get a pop-up that says join, and it'll give you 4 different room options, D, I, S, and C. You just choose which one pertains to you, and then you will be brought right into that room. But if you are having difficulties, please let us know. And with that, you should just have to press join.
All right. Thank you, Shauna. So remember, you're creating these pictures of what a good day and a bad day looks like for people with your style. You know, as you create these descriptions, think about the motivators and stressors that you just learned about in our last session, and how these motivators are reflected in your description of a truly great day, or how the stressors are a factor into a description of a bad day. So all of that can play into what your description will look like. All right, you'll have 10 minutes to work on these, and then each style group will come back together and have a person from their group describe their best and worst days to our larger group. All right, let's get it started, Shauna.
Oh, fancy meeting you here, Alicia.
Oh, check out this room.
Wow, I'm kind of surprised Jadana joined D and not C.
Oh yeah, I'm more of a D than I am a C, for sure.
I could see that. Now that you say it,
Yeah. Just ask anybody on my team.
So what does that mean a best day looks like for you?
Can we start with the results first? Can we choose who's going to be the spokesperson to take notes?
Yeah. I'll do it.
All right. Sorry, Jadana, you were saying.
I mean, I think the thing that I wrote down as far as what motivates me would be analyzing problems. I like to get to the root of a problem. I'm not as excited about necessarily being part of the solution, but I like to make sure that we're getting to the thing that really matters. And that to me is like the most fun I can possibly have.
You know, that's interesting, Jadana, because in mine, and I have a D style with some additional shading to enthusiasm, but in my motivators, on actually one that I highlighted, it says inspiring others to do their best. And so I think it takes your kind of stance with getting to the root problem, but I then almost like to champion it from there forward. Like, all right, now that we know what the problem is, how do I fix it? How do I implement, because implementing ideas was also listed in mine. So it's not just finding the problem. I think it's the problem and the implementation.
Yeah.
Brittany or Alicia?
Yeah, I think my perfect day is when I have a lot of like action-based meetings as opposed to just like informational or, you know, whatever meetings where we're actually deciding things, we're solving problems, we're moving on. But my favorite thing, oh my gosh, is when I have like one or two, like a half an hour between meetings, and I just go through my to-do list and just knock it out, knock it out, knock it out. And I get to click the little check mark and check it off my to-do list. And I love that when I'm just bouncing between like being really involved in a meeting with a high participation and a high, you know, result yield, but then also between the meetings, I'm like just getting it done. I don't know, does anyone relate to that?
Mm-hmm.
Tammy.
I have Post-its that I take and throw. So it's like a checklist, but I'll write each on a Post-it, and then I have a stack, and I just emptied my garbage can, and I'd show it to you. But like, I'll have a stack by the end of the day. Like, I go through more Post-its, I think, than what is necessary. But it's the crumpling, like the checking the box.
I get that.
Tammy?
I agree with that. I like checking the box, like you were saying, Brittany. It makes me at the end of the day feel accomplished. Like I can actually see what I've accomplished for the day. That for sure.
Actually, to that point, and I'll let someone else talk. Imagine that with a D. My worst days are the days when I'm working on something like a big project that's going to take multiple days, multiple steps, whatever, and I just can't get it checked off my list. That is my worst day, especially if I have like 4 hours blocked off to work on something, especially something that like isn't very impactful but is really important. Like audit work for me is the worst. I'm just like, I feel lousy at the end of the day because I didn't finish what I wanted to do, and I didn't get to like do anything meaningful.
So the thing that I wrote for best day, and I think this is going to be very similar to the other things that we heard, was keeping things moving. I love to jump in and get started, but we also got to keep it going, And so Brittany, I also could really relate to that in between meetings, like, okay, what's on my to-do list? And I have a running OneNote where I gray things out when I'm done, and just that moment of watching everything go from black to gray is really satisfying. But if I'm involved in a project and there's some sort of stall or a holdup and I don't really know why, and it's like, I don't know, are there competing priorities, or are you not into it? What's going on? Why aren't we moving? Let's solve whatever this problem is so we can make this efficient again. I really enjoy that.
What else gets people stressed? I'm wondering what else your stressors are.
The other one that I wrote was having little independence or control. So yeah, it's very much like, Jadana, I giggle that you were like, it's not necessarily about being a part of the solution. It may or may not be. I want to decide that, right? Maybe I want to be involved. Maybe I don't. I see that things aren't moving. I'll come and fix it and tell you why it's not moving along, and then maybe I'll be involved. So yeah, just having that control and that freedom to really own my own workday and own experience and how I do things is really important to me.
Yeah, I wrote down having little independence as well. Shocking to anybody who's ever met me, but I really don't like being told what to do. My best managers have always figured out that if you can ask me to do something and I know you're telling me to do it, but if you ask me, then I feel better about it. So, and I think it was probably a good thing that I got to create a job, because there wasn't anybody for that reason telling me how things had to be done. Like, I got to decide how everything worked. And I think that has been very key to my happiness.
I want to circle back to that, but I want to give Tammy a chance to talk first. I'm practicing. I'm trying.
I mean, I'm agreeing with everything that you all are saying. I mean, because we're D-styles, it's all very similar. I agree. I like, one of my biggest stressors, I think, is not being able to voice my opinion. Jadana will absolutely agree with that. If I have to keep my mouth shut and like like right now, everyone is stating things and offering opinions and asking me for mine. But if I'm not allowed, like in a big meeting or something that's really important that I know I need a say in it because it's something that is a deliverable for me, that will be the biggest stressor for me, for sure.
Tammy, I almost have a conflicting stressor, or it could be perceived at times as a conflicting stressor, because I get a bad day for me is when I think meetings are inefficient, or if I'm bogged down with procedures, or if I'm in a meeting and halfway through the meeting I'm like, great, this should have just been an email, right?
Yeah.
Like, but to the point, the meetings give people that platform to weigh in, and I would probably overlook that when I'm just thinking, you could have just sent me an email, right? So I need to consciously continue to value that.
I think this is also where so I have a DC style, and I think the C part is where I am less concerned about checking things off my list and far more concerned about, again, making sure that we're solving the right problem, that we have the right solution, that we understand all of the ramifications for the decisions that we make. As Tammy can attest, I don't even have a to-do list. Like,
I don't know how you do that.
Good memory, relying solely on this memory.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main meeting room as you're coming down that virtual hallway out of your small rooms to our big room. I want to welcome you back and just I'm really anxious to hear what each group has to present. So let's have one of the groups start, present its best and worst days. Who would like to go first? A spokesperson from one of the rooms, who would like to go? Amy, go ahead. I see your hand went up, and then Tiago will be next. Go ahead.
So I'm in the S group, and we had a good breakout. I'm an SI. We had Christy, who is an S, and then Wally, who's an SC.
Okay.
So we had a good range. And for a good, we did all agree that a combination of teamwork and independent work time is a good day for us. As much as we like working on a team, we do recognize the need to work independently. Clarity on what we're going to work on for the day. For me as an SI, I like it when I get to determine what that is versus having somebody tell me what that is, but just knowing what we're going to work on when we come into work. A day where nothing goes wrong. For Christy and I in particular, we're SI and S, time to connect with others, whether it's in a meeting or just kind of side conversations, that's important to us. And then bringing organization to a project. So when things are organized, that was a little more on Wally's side, but I think we all agreed that that was a good day. And then for a bad day, we definitely all agreed on the days when there were multiple things just coming at us, questions, projects, emails. It's jarring to have that. And then also being under pressure to make decisions quickly without having time to think or reflect. And those days or those situations when you're with angry or argumentative people, we welcome people speaking their mind, but when the arguments and the anger start, that's stressful. And that was it.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Now, I want to put this question out to the group. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask this group? Here's an opportunity to touch base with somebody. Maybe you work with a colleague who has an S style and there's something that intrigues you or you wonder about. Now's your time to ask this group that question. So does anybody have any questions for that group? Can put them in, put it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand.
Say, I don't know if it's a question, Amy, but the way when you were talking about your stressors, when people bring the argument or the anger, I think you said, and it made me kind of sit here and reflect, thinking how many times like I will argue and get into arguments, and at times that term like devil's advocate, right? And unintentionally, I'm realizing it may be perceived as anger. And I don't think, especially in the workplace, I don't think there's necessarily anger involved from at least my own personal actions, but just having the awareness that it can be perceived as like, hey, when I'm pushing back or I have this argument, it could be perceived that I'm disgruntled about it or upset by it, when it's just I'm arguing at times for the betterment of the group or the betterment of the cause. And so that's a cool take.
Well, the flip side is it's important to recognize too that intensity doesn't always mean anger either. It's just a different way of communicating.
That's a great point. Intensity doesn't always equal anger. That's something that we could all do well to remember, I think. Yeah, and Brittany has a question here in the chat box. When there are big shakeups to the day, how would you like to be notified and have that handled?
That's a good question. Just getting time. That's the very nature of shakeups, right? There's never advance notice. So I think what happens, maybe just giving me time to take a moment to breathe, to think about it, to reflect, and not be expected to respond immediately. Recognizing that need.
Great. Thank you. All right. So great work, S Group. Thank you for stepping up and going first for us. I really appreciate it. Thank you others for giving us some questions that can help clarify that S style for us as well. So great work. Let's go on to Tiago. I think his hand was up next, and it sounds like perhaps you'll be representing, I think, the I style group.
Yes, I will.
All right, go ahead. You're
And
good
in
and
fact,
bad day.
yeah, in fact, we had very similar descriptions of our good and bad days. So we, all three of us, were very action focused, very action driven. So a good day for us is a day where we can get things done, when we can get things moving, when we can start anything new or do anything that that is on our plate. While a bad day is a day with blockers or unresolved dependencies that will prevent us from completing the work that we had planned for the day, or anything that is urgent that it gets delayed by an unpredicted situation. So these are some of the stress reasons during the day. So being unable to take action.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Any questions for the I group? Anything you'd like to ask our I style individuals? No questions? All right. Well, I have a question. For those I styles, you're so action oriented, you want to get things moving. How do you respond when, things need to be slowed down for a while, when the processes get to the point where we can't just move forward? We might have to stop and regroup, maybe re-examine the objectives when you are more forward moving thought. How do you respond to that, and how can we better help you with that?
Well, I guess that taking a step back, a deep breath, and thinking the situation through is the first step for us, because being these action driven, I'm speaking for myself now. It gives me a little anxiety, so I have to get things done. I have to get things moving. I need to do this. So taking a step back, a deep breath, thinking about the situation, thinking that acting may not be the best course of action. So taking action over analyzing the situation may bring you to bigger problems than what you already have. So sometimes taking a step back, looking at the entire situation, looking at the big picture, and just kind of working with yourself to accept that making something is maybe not the best action that you can take.
Yeah.
That it's probably something.
Yeah. So if somebody needs to stop the forward movement, if they just help you to remember, we might need to stop here in order to prevent something bad from happening in the future. That's probably a good trigger for you then, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Good. Hey, Christy's also asking, what can help motivate you if you're in the middle of a long project where there isn't necessarily a new, fresh thing to accomplish? It's a good question,
think
Christy.
that reminding of the project goal, of what we're trying to achieve and where we are trying to go, I think is very important in a long road. So always reminding people what our main objective is, that we are all together in this, we're all together in the same road, and I think this is something that will always bring fresh air into our lungs.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for your responses, and thank you, Christy, for your question. iStyles, great job. Thanks for giving us another view into part of the disc. So
I have a question for the iStyle.
Okay, sure. Who is
this?
Marco. Marco,
yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like people with the iStyle like to start things off, right? But is it that they tend to just start things and then get bored with real quick and don't get through it, don't finish stuff they start, or not?
Oh, at least in my case, I like to start new things but because of what they the value they bring. So not always. How can I put this into words? It's not all projects that you start that you're gonna finish. This is something that is gonna happen in life. Some projects you're gonna abandon because either they're not worth it, or either they're not going where you want them to go. So this wisdom to choose between which one do we need to continue and which one do we need to let go. I think that this is the hardest part, finding this because where you want to go is not always where you need to go. Having to do these tough decisions. So this is what I wanted to do, but I need to do this. I think that these tough decisions are what will bring the how can I say, the final word on which projects go on and which projects are left aside.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying these can, having to stop and think, it can be a challenge, but it's not something that a person with an I style can't do. You certainly can do that. It's not in your nature, but when you recognize that it's necessary, you can definitely do that. It requires more stress, a little more energy, but you can. Brian here is also contributing. That's how we leverage the enthusiasm to bring people together and make the project keep moving. But we always try to find new things to add to the project to help it keep moving, keep it interesting as well. Good. All right, so great conversation about the I style. Let's go ahead and go to Alicia, who has her hand up for her group. Go ahead, Alicia.
Yeah, so we were the D style group, and a best day would probably include a lot of action-based meetings where we're either analyzing problems and developing a solution, or we're figuring out what the next steps are and taking action on them. However, there's going to be some gaps between these meetings so that we can power through our to-do list. There's kind of an adrenaline where it's bouncing from thing to thing to thing, but having that chunk of time, whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, to just quickly plow through some things would probably be a very good day for us. So a lot of the conversation was a lot of action, checking off things on the to-do list, and analyzing problems, getting stuff to a place where we can get going. So that would be our best day. Our worst day would probably look very similar with a lot of meetings, but in these meetings, we would not be able to voice our opinions. Our ideas and authority would be challenged, and in between these meetings, instead of being able to plug through that to-do list, we'd probably be working on a big project that's going to take multiple days, but it doesn't have a big impact. So whether it's something that's very routine that we just got to get through, but we don't have that satisfaction of being able to get a lot done in the time that we have to ourselves. And the meetings themselves are either having our ideas or authority challenged, or we don't have independence or control, or the meetings are just inefficient. They could have just been an email. We had some discussion about the benefits of having meetings, especially ones that give us the opportunity to weigh in. But looking at the worst day, it's very delegated, and we don't have that autonomy that we crave.
All right. Thank you so much, Alicia. So group, what questions do you have for the D style? Go ahead and raise your hand or plop them in the chat box for me.
Well, I have a question.
All right, Tiago, go ahead.
I think that there are a lot of similarities in our action-driven day. So what do you do to challenge a day where you cannot get anything done? What do you do to get over this day?
I would probably take that home with me and completely get things taken care of outside of work, or I would find ways to break up projects or break up tasks, or just, there's always something that needs to get done really quickly. So I would find ways to make time for that, or just break something up into those manageable pieces. So even if it's a big project, or if I'm working on a chunk of a project that seems a little daunting or overwhelming, I'm still going to split it up into a lot of smaller pieces so I can feel like something's getting done. Or I would just put something on the checklist just for the satisfaction of being able to cross it out, like open computer. Great, done.
Check marks are very validating and satisfying, aren't they?
Yes.
All right. Brittany says, I agree with Alicia. I've been known to work after hours just for the pure satisfaction of checking it off my list and not for any deadlines. So, it seems obvious that those with the D style, really value that completion portion of the project, getting it done right too, though. I mean, we're not finishing things for the sake of finishing them. But I'm curious if I could ask a question here. How do you work with people who are, have a slower pace, have a more moderate pace, processing or maybe asking a lot of questions, which might seem to slow the process down?
If there's anyone else in the group, feel free to chime in. But what I like to do is have a set time where it's, here's what we're presenting. Now let's walk away, to give the other folks who require that processing time the time to process, and then having a defined time to come back and go through those questions. So it doesn't seem like, okay, I'm presenting this idea, or here's the plan, and then questioning it and challenging it right away, because that can feel tough. Or if there's nothing being said, because people need time to process, it's just anticipating that ahead of time so that we know, all right, step back, we'll come back together and tackle the questions at a later time.
Good. So building in that process time so you're not frustrated when it's thrust upon you.
Exactly.
Good. Any other questions? We have some comments coming up in here. People are putting a process questioning time on their checklist, so that helps. Brittany says, honestly, though, this is where I have to practice restraint. It's hard for me to slow my pace, but I know that it's necessary to give others space. And here again, this is where we're talking about that stretch that is so important, and that DISC helps us understand what areas are very comfortable in our comfort zone and what areas might take more energy. But that doesn't mean we can't do it. It just takes a little more energy, and we might be a little more tired when we go home after work on those days, but we can do it. Great. All right. Jadana says, as long as I feel like it's a good use of my time, I don't mind slowing down. Good, Jadana, thank you. All right, so we have one more style to report out. So that is the C style. So who is going to be our spokesperson for the group that had the C style?
I will be.
All right, thank you. Dasha, great, yes. Thank you.
So I have a CS style, and Marco has C style. So it was just like talking as if we know each other. Mm-hmm. So our good day is when things don't go as planned. Sorry, when the things go as planned and solving problems through logic, and we are able to accomplish the priorities of the day. Mm-hmm. Those are the good things. And the bad days are when things don't go as expected, and the unknowns. And sometimes to take decisions, it takes us time because we have to carefully study before we give our opinions. Mm-hmm. So like for C style, I don't like to be rushed. I need my time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have a steady pace, and very precise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those were the things we came up with.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we've just finished talking about, styles who really like to keep moving things forward. And now we have the other side of that coin, right? We have styles that are more moderately paced, don't like to be rushed, want that time to process the information, want that time to get all the information they can before making a decision. So thank you, Daksha. Thank you for that. What questions does the group have for our C-style individuals? Is there something you'd like to understand better?
How do you deal with us crazy eye people?
Good question. How do you deal with the crazy eye people? Daksha or Marco?
I think you're mute, Daksha.
So what I do is I just step back, process, think, and then answer. I don't like to be rushed. So I'm very much like grounded, like, okay, I need my time. And if somebody rushes me, I let them know I need some time and I'll reach out to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that, when people make you, rush you, I'm sure that makes you feel uncomfortable. Does that discomfort ever prevent you from asking for that time?
More than discomfort, I like everything to be like perfect, like to be precise. So I let them know, like, if you need like the quality work, then I need my time a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah. And I have learned that over the years. I was like, my nature, I'm very shy, like I won't say directly, but then sometimes you have to just do things you have to do. Like, then I don't want the whole team to be affected just because of one thing. So I always have my team priorities, like what goals we need to achieve. And it's uncomfortable for me, but I have to sometimes.
Good. Thank you. Any other questions for our C-style colleagues here? Give it another 15 seconds. I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. I think we're good. Hey, thank you for participating in such great conversations, everybody. This has been really eye-opening. I hope that you've learned some new and interesting, gotten some new and interesting insights into people around you and, what's driving their behaviors, and a little insight into their kind of day. All right. So thinking about those best and worst days that you just heard described, I want you to take a look at some of the workplace activities here on this slide. Some of the workplace activities that people around the DISC map tend to gravitate toward. So looking at your quadrant of the map, you probably feel drawn to those activities listed there. And some of them may have even come up in this conversation, but you're probably going to look at those activities and say, yeah, that's my wheelhouse. I'm pretty cool doing those things. I'm very comfortable. So that's kind of a no-brainer. So what I'd like you to do is take a moment to look across the map at the activities that are enjoyed or come natural to people with different styles than your own. So you may feel less comfortable with some of those activities, even though they're, where some of your teammates find much of their energy, as we've just learned here. So I'm going to give you a minute to think about these different activities before we move on. Okay, so now You know, the more you think and learn about the kinds of activities that other styles are drawn to, the easier you may find it to understand and connect with your colleagues. So what I'd like you to do now is reflecting on what we've learned about each other here today. Can I have a few volunteers to share your thoughts about this question here? What surprised you about what other groups shared? Was there anything that surprised you? Did this make you think about things that you'd like to work on as you learned how motivators and stressors are impacting your colleagues? What surprised you? Were there any insights you got that you didn't anticipate? So just go ahead and raise your hand or type them in the chat box again. See if I can get a few volunteers. Something you learned that you may not have considered before. Tiago, go ahead. Thank you. I think you're still muted there, Tiago.
I was.
Yeah.
Only by acknowledging that people are different is a huge step, you know. But some things that were surprising, but shouldn't be for me are the strategies, like giving other people time to think about what I'm doing, what I'm telling them, what I'm trying to communicate, what I'm trying to do. This is one of the things that for me stand out, because I'm very fast-paced on my communication. I like to talk a lot. I like to speak a lot. I think you noticed, but sometimes this can be overwhelming to people, and sometimes this is not the best way to communicate. So giving people space is also important. Giving people time to process what I'm saying, what I'm telling is kind of something that is kind of obvious, but it struck me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for those insights. Looks like Wally has his hand up too. Go ahead, Wally.
Something I hadn't noticed before, I was just thinking about when everyone was describing their best day, you know, and all the different styles. I was just noticing a similarity in most of the styles, that everyone has this orientation towards getting things done, I guess, in some way. You know, being productive at work maybe is the way. I mean, we're talking about the workplace, so maybe that's natural, but being productive in some way, it was just interesting to see like the different ways that came out, you know, that maybe people like to be productive in different ways. But I just noticed that it was, you know, that each of the styles seem to lead with that.
Yeah.
So different priorities lead to different levels of productivity, even if, like, you know, like barreling through a meeting where it starts with the problem, ends with a solution sounds really stressful to me. I can appreciate why someone would be satisfied by that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does speak to our intentions, regardless of our actions, of our mode of achieving our goals. We all can value. We have the same goal in mind. We can value the intentions that we have, but we're going to approach them differently based on our preferences, our tendencies, and those things that we prioritize. But you're right, Wally. I mean, nobody was saying, I just don't want to get anything done. We didn't hear that. No, we all want to be productive and valuable to our teams. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a really great insight. There's a lot of comments in the chat box here as well, so I hope you guys get a chance to read through those. I'll take one more comment from Amy as well. Go ahead, Amy.
So I was just going to say, and it came out of what Andy and I were saying, is that my perception in a situation may not actually be reality. You know, tend to say that perception is reality, but in certain situations, I'm not being objective. And maybe if I find myself making assumptions, I need to step back and try to pull in that objectivity.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and you know, when we work with each other and openly communicate those kinds of things, we can have those realizations, can't we? It's when we're operating just within our own understanding of the situation that we may be you know, blinded, side blinded, or horse blinded, if you will. So that's a great insight as well, Amy. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on. I want to spend some time thinking about strategies here. We've gotten some great insights about ourselves and each other today. And part of using DISC to build a thriving culture is taking those insights and considering what you can do to work more effectively with others. So what we've learned today, that let's create an action plan for being more effective in the workplace. So again, I want you to return to the Catalyst platform, and again on the What Drives You page, let me see if I can demonstrate that here on the What Drives You page. What we want to do is go down to the strategies. So here we are in the strategies of the Catalyst right here. And in this summary here, it outlines 3 strategies based on your lowest workplace priorities that could really help you be more effective at work. So what I want you to do is review these strategies in this section, select one that you would like to focus on, and then read the description and the bullet points for that strategy. I'll give you a minute or so to read through this, and then just give me a thumbs up again when you're finished. All right, so let's give you a few seconds to finish up what you're reading there. Okay, everybody. So what are we going to do with this? Well, you were each asked to bring a copy of the Workplace Module 1 Action Plan for Key Strategies handout. Shauna can put it back in a download into the chat box again there too, if you don't happen to have that with you. It looks like this, what you see here on the screen. So I want you to take a look at this handout, and using what you just read and the handout questions as a guide, make a plan for using this strategy that you just selected. So Sean has put it into the chat box. You just click on that and that'll give you an opportunity to download it if you don't have it with you already. And I'll give you about 5 to 6 minutes of quiet time to do that right now. So again, give me a thumbs up when you're finished, and we'll let you work and give you some quiet time. I'll give you about 30 seconds to wrap up what you've got there. All right, now I'm going to partner you up and send you into breakout rooms again. So in just a minute, in a few minutes, take a few minutes to share your plans with your partner. And what you can do is you can offer additional advice or feedback that you believe might help your partner become more comfortable using the strategy that they've chosen. All right, so you'll have about 5 minutes for this discussion. And Shauna, are we all set in the breakouts there?
We are all set to go. I have them set to go for 5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. And it looks like we've got even number of people now, so we can we have pairs. So great. All right, so we'll be sending you into the breakout room, and we'll see you back here in about 5 minutes.
Hi, Daksha. How are you?
Hey, good, Alicia. How are you?
I'm
Good to
good.
see you.
I know it's been so long.
I know.
Probably about a year.
Yes. It's a year.
Yeah,
How are things going with you?
they're going well. I
Mm-hmm.
really enjoy working from home, and I like the work that we're doing. It's been very exciting on the education team. So overall, I'm
Yes.
doing good. How are you with everything?
Yeah, even I enjoy working from home. Like I don't have to drive.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it saves so much time and energy.
Yes. And do you find it easier to focus on the stuff that you have to
Yes.
work on, but then also be able to give more time focusing to home when you're at home?
Yes.
Or do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I because it's so quiet,
Yeah.
I'm in my different room. I am more focused here.
Okay.
Like, yeah, but I miss seeing people, but at the same time, I'm more focused at home.
Yeah. Yep. I'm kind of the same with that.
Yeah, I don't get distracted
Yeah.
easily.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we jump into this?
Yes,
What strategy did you pick?
I picked be direct with tough feedback, which is
Mm,
which is a big stretch for me.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm always like, oh, I should not hurt their feelings. Like how like I get very nervous.
Mhm.
Like I want to be direct, but I at the same time think, oh, I should not hurt their feelings. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
yeah,
so hard.
yeah. What did you pick, Alicia?
Get buy-in before moving ahead.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really stood out for me in that was I can come across as very confident in my ideas, and I am confident in my ideas, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that confidence comes across as my way or the highway, or this is how we're doing it, when really what I want is, and I wrote this as a part of what I need to do to put it into action, say, this is the problem. I have a solution to propose, but I want all of your feedback on that before moving
Yeah.
ahead. Because
Yeah.
I always think that when I propose
Uh-huh.
an idea, I want you to tear it apart. I want you to,
Uh-huh.
because that's how we're better, but without actually saying that,
Uh-huh.
it can get lost. And so then
Yeah.
if folks aren't bought in, then they resent me and the project
Yeah.
and the idea. So just being clear about
Yeah.
soliciting buy-in.
Yeah. I like it, that approach. Like you put your ideas and you tell others, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
Hmm.
So it's like you're involving everybody in the group and people don't think they're left out or
Yeah, and kind of thinking about both of our strategies, while that's a challenge for us, it is what we would want. If
yes.
someone else was proposing something, I would want them to get buy-in from me, just
Yeah.
like if someone had critical feedback, or what
Mhm.
was the phrase?
Direct, tough feedback.
Direct, tough feedback. If someone had that for me, I would want them to tell me.
Yes.
You know, obviously I would like them to do it in a way that's not hurtful.
Hurtful, yes.
But, you know, as Brene Brown says, clear is kind. You
Yes.
know, so it's as hard
Yeah.
as it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But at least it also depends on the other person, like if you want to know the truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it's a stretch for me. It's not that I won't I lie to them, but my approach will be different with my style. But
yes,
you know, I want to be truthful to my team.
Right.
So that a small problem doesn't become a bigger issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I think we're going to get cut off here in a second, but when we're trying to be nice or we're trying to not hurt someone's feelings, sometimes the message gets lost because,
Yes.
you know, especially if it's like that compliment sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, but what's the real issue here? Just tell me. I know something's going on.
I know.
But it's a tough balance.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the main meeting room. You're coming down that virtual hallway, so I want to welcome you all back. And now I just want to say, you know, I hope that you found this time interesting and helpful. Having to be able to share an action plan with another individual is always great, where you can get feedback and insights that you may not have thought about. So, you know, continue seeking that kind of feedback as you're making action plans going forward. And now, you know, this action plan that you've just created, it's really a great way to start taking steps to be more effective at your work. And keeping these ideas in mind also allows you to be more thoughtful about what you contribute to your organization's culture and how you can help it thrive. So over time, you may think of other things that you want to add to your plan, and that would be great. Just keep this plan a living document that you can continue to add to, and you know, as you gain new insights and want to grow more in your collaborative DISC transformational culture. So I do want to, this brings us to the closing of our time together today. I want to thank you for participating in today's session. I encourage you to review this action plan periodically as a reminder to put these ideas into practice. Like I said, keep it a living document. Refer back to it often, add to it, make notes about your experiences, and you'll want to consider the other key strategies too that you saw on the Catalyst platform. There were 3 strategies there, and you only looked at 1 today. So there's more for you out there as well. In addition, you can use the Catalyst platform to learn more about the other DISC styles and how you can interact with them better. It's a powerful tool for understanding what drives your colleagues' actions and helps everybody be able to learn to value what others bring to the table, as well as how you can interact with them better. So again, I want to say thank you. It's been a pleasure being your facilitator, and I look forward to a time when we're together again. Thank you so much. Take care.